you all remember, I know George does, and Jack, I think you do. Remember a bass player that was here in the 60s named Jack Gregg?
I do.
Oh, of course,
Yes.
yeah.
And, well, he and I are still in touch. He lives in Paris. He's been there 40 years.
Oh.
And he's still playing. And the drummer, John Betch, you remember John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's lived in Paris for 40-some years. And so we talk a lot. And Jack went into the Pancake Pantry one time when he was here. And that was when things were closed to people who were at Vanderbilt or whatever, who had long hair.
Right.
The guy in Pancake
Those
Pantry
damn
would just
hippies.
throw him out. And so Jack, he always has such a good humor. And so I said, "Do you remember when he threw you out?" And he said, "Yes." And so
that probably happened in about 1971.
yeah,
And I'm still boycotting the Pancake Pantry
me too.
for disallowing hippies.
You are-
Oddly,
he was
his
so
basis
mean.
was
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
they just sit around and drink coffee all day, which is the exact business model of Starbucks.
Right.
And second, I was in New York and I went to visit Jack Gregg, who we didn't know each other really, but we were both friends of Beegie. And he is in this loft somewhere on the west side.
Yeah.
And I ended up playing bass trios with him and Eddie Gomez, who strolled in.
Yeah.
What a thrill that was.
Oh my!
It was to me
Hello?
too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's amazing how you're 1 degree of separation away from something really cool.
Yeah.
He and Maxine divorced. He married again. She married again. She married Dexter Gordon, and wrote the book about him this last year.
Well, among many other things. I mean, she's just.
Well, yeah. I mean,
she's
she's
a powerhouse.
Brilliant
She's
woman.
a powerhouse.
So Jack is married and lives in France, and we talk together on the internet probably twice a week sometimes. He's still playing. He and I are the same age. He's playing with various bands and little supper clubs and sometimes traveling a little bit and stuff.
Yeah.
He's still a wonderful musician. So
people don't always remember that he came here to play with Boots Randolph.
that's how I met him. I was subbing for Joe Lane. And Joe finally said, "I've got a copy business, so I'm going to need you just to play 5 nights a week." So I got a long stint with Boots, whom I adored. He was the most fun person to play with in the world. And he was, when he wasn't doing the stuff, the sketches and all that kind of stuff for the people in the carousel, he could play like Ben Webster. I mean, he was a jazz player completely.
Well, I can tell you, he was not fun to play with. If at his nightclub, the Carousel, which is a very upscale nightclub in Nashville, and he walks on stage and he turns around, and instead of Chuck Sanders, his usual bass player, who had been partying and was incapacitated, he sent me. And he said, "Who the hell are you?" I mean, he with a look. He said, "Who the hell are you?" And I said, "Hey,
Yeah.
So Joe Lane got me through that, but oh man, he was terrifying that night.
Oh no!
He was not happy.
How was the gig? I mean, after that, how was the gig? Did it get any better, or was he a dick the whole time?
No. It was just that when he walked on stage, it was this like dagger deal.
Yeah,
but no, I got through it. I got through it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you
Joe,
did just fine.
Joe and I were both
We've had
working at
interesting
WSM.
people through here. It's been great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Joe and I subbed for each other on WSM a lot. And he had a copy service and kept him up all night. So sometimes he would call me at 6 p.m. and say, "I'm going to be up all night. I can't
copy him for Berg and White."
Yeah.
Well, Chuck Sanders had a drinking service that he would call me at about 2 a.m. and say, "Go do the waking crew."
Right. Oh, I used to get that too.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
But we all lived through it. It was.
That's right.
And I played with you a lot on the Waking Crew. You wrote me an orchestra arrangement for what was the name of that tune I liked? This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. You wrote me an end of a beautiful friendship, just the beginning of love. And you wrote a band arrangement for me so I could sing that song on the Waking Crew. Do you remember that?
No, but I'm happy I did.
Well, it's
too
one
many
of my
things
favorite
going
tunes.
on.
I still like to play it. I don't sing anymore. I lost my voice. But anyway, it was fun.
The first nickel I earned in Nashville when I moved here was an arrangement for the Waking Crew.
Well, the first time.
And that's about what they paid.
Wow.
Yeah, not much.
Yeah.
The first time I
That
played
was
on the
a
Waking
phenomenon.
Crew, I was subbing for Marvin Hughes, who was their regular
Right.
pianist, and he was going on a vacation. So he called me. I was in graduate school, and I had an 8:00 class with a very strict professor about neumes and the nuns and the guys in the convents that invented the system of music. This guy was so in love with the neumes. His way of teaching was he would just go to the board and he would write these 4-line things that were 13th century stuff, and he would kind of mumble to himself about how important they were, and we'd be trying to take notes. And so when they called me to play 2 weeks on the Waking Crew, I did, and I missed that class, and I got an what do they call it?
Incomplete.
Incomplete. Thank you.
Incomplete.
And that was
I know all about it.
I was 20 years old, but they sent my grades to my parents. My dad called me up and said, "What the hell did you do?" I said, "I went to a radio station and I made a lot of money instead of being in this class." And later, I did get the incomplete. The guy that was the head of the system, and I can't remember his name right now, but I wouldn't call it anyway. But he called me in. He called me in and he said, "Young lady, you need to figure out what you want to do. Do you want to get an education in music, or do you want to play those silly radio shows?" And I said, "I have to have money to get the education, and I could make it playing those silly radio shows." And he said, "You're hopeless. You're not going to amount to anything." And so I said, "Thank you very much," and I left. Then I taught 2 years, and then I came to Nashville, and I started working, and I worked.
This seems like a good segue into the next photo, coincidentally. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Birdland. You did okay, BG. You did okay, BG.
You
did. You got one
just
over
fine.
Carnegie Hall?
I don't, but yes, that's another notch in the belt as well. But I noticed in this photo, it's from left to right. It's me, my friends, Sam Nugent, BG, George, who needs to tell us all about that night, and Todd Stutz. But Birdland, I'm gonna use this just for a second. Birdland is very dear to our heart. We've been playing there for almost 10 years now. Actually 10 years for sure. Annually, sometimes multiple times a year. And they've been very good to us. They're a part of our family. And this is our chance to give back to venues. They're the first to close, the last to open. So we need to be extra kind to all of our live venues, whether it's your symphony hall that you love or your movie theater that you love, places, iconic venues like Birdland, the Franklin Theater here, the Nashville Jazz Workshop, which we have a photo coming up of that. But that particular night, anyway, just give them a few bucks. Pre-order tickets, buy merchandise, do whatever you can to help them. That's all we ask. But That was the Birdland Theater. That was actually the Birdland Theater hadn't opened officially at that point, but they had asked some of their artists who drew people in and they knew could draw a crowd in to fill a new venue. And they contacted us and they said, we want BG to come and play. Would you and BG come and do a duo set? We did 2 or 3 nights. I don't know, maybe 4 nights that time. I don't know. But anyway, they said, it's a soft opening. We want you to bring your bass in because we want to open this new venue. It's downstairs from Birdland. And they're mixing all the artists. So there's jazz and Broadway and everything on both stages, but it's a smaller room, intimate. We love playing it, right, Beach?
Right,
So
it's good. It's very good. It's like the workshop.
So this was our first time. It wasn't open, and we were trying to help bring people in and draw people in. And George tells us he's coming to listen, and that's not good enough for me, right? Like I'm like, you can't just show up. You got to bring your horn, because if you don't bring your horn, don't show up. That's just as simple as that. And that's what we did. You were there almost every night that we played, and you played with us on our opening night, I think.
It was so much fun. It was a joy. Really fun. Really fun.
Well, it meant the world to us.
Yeah.
Hey, so Denis, I have a thing I want to tell you. I've already told George this. I have a kind of an unspoken rule with the trio, whether it be Carnegie or Birdland or any place. I said if Denis, Solee, or George shows up, they have an open invitation to play, because you have such a long-standing recording history and history with BG of playing on stage. And like I don't do sit-ins. I'm like, nah, you don't get to just come to Birdland and sit in with somebody. That's bullshit. But if Denis, Solee, or George Tidwell shows up, they're sitting in on the gig. They're doing the gig, and George took us up on that. So I love
that was so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. It was wonderful for me. I was at a time when I wasn't sure I was going to keep playing, and that
was
couple of
after
hours
you had your
changed
legs
my
fixed.
mind.
Yeah.
It was special.
You sounded wonderful that night.
And Denis would be fantastic in that situation.
Yeah.
He will.
Denis and I are known to fall off. We can fall off a log together.
I heard about
absolutely
about that.
Absolutely.
What's that about?
That's just Denis's phrase for how easily the two of us have always played together.
Oh yeah.
We came on the way out from one gig where we had played a bunch of music without ever talking about any articulation or time or anything else. And Denis said, well, we fell off a log again tonight. So.
Yeah, right.
That's good. Yes, it's like you're Diz and Bird.
Well, not that, but
you all, when you can finish each other's sentences musically, you got a good gig going on. You guys do it all the time, so that's cool.
That's true. That is true.
I have on that note, I've got a few more photos. Look at this one.
Oh,
that is
the workshop.
George, Denis. That's a rehearsal. George, Denis, Chris, Roger, and BG. I love this photo because we don't really have a ton of photos of the actual trio with George and Denis. And, for those of you watching, maybe you're watching because you have Denis's recordings or George's, whatever. And I think it's nice. And the workshop is another venue, obviously, we're trying to support. And the reason I know all of you, so I'm always kind of partial to talking about that particular space and all of that. So what about the workshop? Tell us about the workshop a little bit.
Yeah, it's such a big part of my life. The last 15 years.
more.
Why don't you say what it is?
It's a learning space, and a performing space, and it's run by a couple of the greatest people. Roger and Lori are committed to the music and to the players and to the students and to the community. It's been a fantastic place to, experiment with writing and experiment with playing and make music and see the people, the students who have come through there. They've been open long enough to have a pretty big parade of people who started out as students and are now serious members of the jazz community here and in other places too.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic place.
It's
So
a
when they
focal-
reopen in their
there's
new
a-
space,
Yeah, it was a focal point of the kind of straight ahead jazz for years and years, where we didn't really have anything comparable. And here we have a place where people can learn the music, where some of us can actually play on a regular basis to an audience that really understands and appreciates what you're doing. It was just what Roger and Lori did was almost like a miracle. We just didn't have anything like that for years and years, and then whatever 1990 whatever, it was the place. And I'm hoping that the new place will give us so much, as much as we got out of the old place.
Yeah.
They got gentrified out of their original place, didn't they?
Yeah.
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 The property got sold.
Yeah.
The big property.
They got gentrified.
Yeah, they did.
In their own way.
That's a good way to think of it.
Well,
but they're going to do okay if the pandemic shut everything down.
Sure.
But they have plans, and they have things. Everything is in storage. The library and things like that are in storage, and the pianos are in storage. But they have a building,
right?
And they're working through. They're working through the things that you have to do to rehab a building in a certain area of town. So they have all these things that they have to do, like the roof's got to be right, and the sidewalks have got to be right, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, they just want to get it ready for. They want to get it. They've got to meet certain codes and stuff, but they also want to make sure that it's as intimate and inviting of a space as what people remember the cave to be. And so they're big shoes to fill, but they can do it. They've got a lot of good people around them, and a lot of musicians who are eager to play. So
and it's going to be a bigger space, so they can have more of an audience.
But they can sure use your support. So NashvilleJazz.org.
Yes.
Make a donation. And as we say, no venues, no BG concerts. So
there you go.
So that applies to every musician or a lot of musicians. We're not doing the online concert thing. We're not opposed to it. We're just not doing it. So that's just our stance on it. And so you want us back, you got to support the venues. You got to keep the venues open. So I'm going to break this up for a second because, as I suspected, you will have a lot to talk about, and we're not lacking conversation at all. But we are at the 2-hour moment of this, and I really want to do. First of all, we're already at a 2-part series. That's fine. I'm cool with that. I'd like to involve some Q&A. This can continue to go off topic. We don't have to stay on any kind of topic. We're not on any kind of agenda here. But,
let's say a midnight cutoff, okay?
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to be slurring my words. Everyone gets to guess the question that I'm asking at that point. But if that's okay with you, that's okay.
We can do it.
It won't be the first time, people. Okay. All right. So, we have some Q&A that I would really like to get to with all of these fine folks. So I am shuffling, as you can see. Oh my God, I'm dropping and shuffling. Oh God. Okay. So in no particular order, I'm going to ask questions. Some of these are questions geared towards individuals. Most of them are just open to anyone. You don't all have to answer, but you can. Some of these are just key points because there are a couple of mischievous devils in this group that reminded me of really funny things or told me about funny things. And so I'm just going to, maybe say a keyword and see what happens. So in no particular order, this is for anyone. Who is your favorite? This is a fan question. Who is or was your favorite producer or engineer to work with?
Well, I could say
Jack worked with some of the most famous for sure.
Yeah, we need to hear from him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not on any jazz projects particularly.
That's okay.
But,
I don't think these people are targeting jazz.
There's a guy named Brent Mayer who works at a studio here in town. He started as an engineer and then got into producing. And one of the projects he did was the Judds, which is anti-jazz, I guess, as you can get, but they were different from anybody else.
Sure.
And they were that way because he just sort of engineered it that way. I mean, he prepared everything different from anybody else, and he recorded things different from anybody else, and he put a band together that was together through all their career, which isn't often done. And he gets credit as the producer, but he really kind of made them. And I was just always impressed with what he did with that group and how he kind of built. They could have been a little routine mother-daughter duo, but they were something more. And he did an impressive thing with them, I thought.
I think you and I worked together with him. Was it on Shelby Lynn or maybe Michael Johnson? Some of those guys.
Michael Johnson, I did. Yeah, a lot of that. Yeah.
I know you played on Shelby Lynn, but maybe that was Steve Gibson that produced it. Yeah, Brent was great.
All right, I have another question.
Can I answer before you go? Can I answer that question?
No.
Yeah.
Of course you can. Go ahead.
Well,
who let her in here?
Yeah,
I don't know. Who is she anyway? I would say, for me personally, I did a lot of work at LSI, and Al McGuire, who lives in Orlando now, was a wonderful, wonderful engineer. And I would have to say, with some familial intent here, that when my husband and I started a jingle company, he was the producer and sometimes the writer on the material, and he won tons and tons of radio and television prizes for jingle writing and advertising writing. And I think he was a terrific producer.
Yeah.
Somebody's front door was ringing or something.
I was going to say, is everybody hearing that? I have no idea.
Yeah.
What it is.
Let him in.
They knocked on the door. We ordered some food. So they're supposed to put it on the front porch. And there's a big sign there that says, "Don't come in."
Did you get get some for everybody?
Yes. I'm sending it your way.
It'd be hard to get it all out over several miles.
As long as you eat cashew chicken, we're good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I would also say I always loved working with Kyle Linning.
Oh yeah.
Producer Kyle Linning,
I liked him a lot.
So musical and such a good
Yes,
communicator.
he was.
And I know Jack worked for him a lot too. I think he was one of the best.
Absolutely brilliant.
Okay, I shuffled and I have another question. We talked about online that we watched the Ken Burns country music documentary, and somebody wrote in and they said, you watched Ken Burns country music. What or who was your favorite country musician to work with? Well, that question was geared to BG, but considering our audience right now, I'm going to open up to all of you to say, and I'm going to go. I'm going to walk off screen to go get the cashew chicken. But anyway, so while I do that, you all can talk about the country musicians that you worked with that you liked working with.
Well, they didn't talk about him a lot, but I went out and played piano with Roger Miller for a while. Marty Stewart was the band leader, and he was a unique and interesting individual to work with. But I enjoyed them talking about him a lot on that show.
Yeah.
And Ray Stevens. They didn't get to Ray very much, but
were you
I would do that too. I was with him for a year on the road. So I remember one time we were in Atlanta and we all had to get back for gigs, and the plane something was wrong with the plane. We had to change planes and everything. He was the one that always went up to the ticket agent. We didn't travel with his manager because he lived in LA. He hardly ever showed up. And I enjoyed that year really well. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I guess
I'll go on.
In all our various recordings and award shows, we got to work with just about everybody. It's hard to pick. I did love playing with Cash, and I did love.
Me too.
I did some studio. I played on some of his records, and he was extremely loose about that. He was.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, we didn't mention him, but Chet Atkins was amazing to work for when he was
my favorite of the country recordings he was the first person that I was doing some demo sessions. He was the first person that hired me for a master session. And after he did, he hired me for a lot of things. He hired me for Perry Como. He hired me for Henry Mancini. And I got to solo on Mancini's country album. And Chet always was very faithful to. And when he hired me the first time, he said, "I don't know what want you to do yet. We've got this thing at 2:00, and all these people with their instruments and everything." He said, "But I like the way you play, and I want to just try things." And so a lot of times he would just hire me. One time he hired me for his Hank Snow sessions, and Hank Snow, believe it or not, but I grew up with that music. And so he said, "You don't need to play piano because David, you know David, or Floyd or somebody, was playing the piano." But he said, "Just have a seat and then we'll figure out something." And he came over and gave me a train whistle, one of those little whoo things. And he said, "This is a train song, so like every 16 bars, I want you to hit this and play, you know." And I didn't care. It was the same paycheck, right? You know. And but he was really good to me, and he let me.
Funny.
I actually did some road dates with him too, and wonderful guy. He was very intellectual. And you could talk to him about the New York Times, and he knew everything that was going on. You know, it was just really wonderful to be around.
He was surprising.
And we did some symphony dates, you know, where he played with the symphony, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. He was great, wonderful guy.
If the question is about country musicians, I was never ceased being amazed by steel players. I sat within a few feet for 20 years of inarguably the greatest steel players in the world, and I never did figure out what the hell they were doing.
I know.
You know, they got their
Steel
feet going, and their knees are doing things with levers, and it's just. It was a total mystery, and I never came close to solving it. They were incredible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of them that were incredible.
Yeah, there's like half a dozen that were just.
You had
Curly Chalker was my favorite. He and I worked on WSM.
Yeah.
He lived in Las Vegas for years, And I asked him one time how he got the chordal thing going. Like they would have a whole handful of chords going all the way up and down. And he said when he lived in Las Vegas, he would listen to piano players, and he had Oscar Peterson records, and that's how he framed his things, on rhythm section stuff.
Wow.
And I got to work with a lot of the steel players, and one of the steel players, the younger ones, is on my Grover's Hat record. It's Chris Spruggs, and he played an Eddie Arnold tune on that show, on that record, and he has a 1947 lap steel that he played on that. So it sounded exactly like Eddie Arnold and Little Roy Wiggins, And he also plays bass and he sings.
No pedals on that one. Huh?
No, it was great.
Wow.
Yeah.
A mystery.
Yeah,
and Buddy in Buddy's TV band, he had the great Tommy White. That was what a pleasure to hear him every night.
He was good.
Yeah.
He's in a class of his own, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Paul Franklin.
Jack, that's such a good point. I think. I mean, for me, one of the great lessons I learned working here instead of somewhere else is not to assume that anybody isn't way hipper than you.
Oh, right.
I mean, when I came and I was a kid, I was a jazzer kid. And
me too,
I was not
first.
expecting the level of amazing playing and improvising,
It's unbelievable.
a lesson learned in a hurry.
One person I like to mention,
all of them.
Michelle Capps and Jimmy Capps played among my souvenirs on the record that I was talking about with my dad. And Jimmy played a 16-bar solo. He sounded like Mundell Lowe and Charlie Christian and all those guys. And he was just the most wonderful player. And we lost him.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yes. And but I started working with him on the Ralph Emery show back in the 60s. He would come in and sub for the regular guitar player. And the more I listened to him, the more I thought, this guy can play everything. It's not just on the Opry. It's like his sound is like these beautiful jazz musicians that we have records of. And he always did that. He could hear chromatics around the corner, like jazz musicians do. So anyway, rest in peace, Jimmy.
We're all on our way, aren't we?
Yeah.
All right. I have a question. This is a great, it's actually kind of a 3-part, but all the same. It's a good question. What has changed since the 60s to 80s in the studio to now? The second part of that question is, what do you miss? And the third part is, what's better now?
Just to the 60s to the 80s, through that area?
I think they were just assuming that, I don't know. I'm just assuming that they were assuming that things were changed after that, technology-wise or stylistically or something. But whatever you want to respond to.
Well, one of the large improvements is everything going digitally to Pro Tools and other miscellaneous recording formats like that. That's so much different than what we had back in audio tape days. Everything. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, you all were. I remember. I mean, some of the first sessions I did, all they had was an 8-track machine.
Oh yeah.
Just an 8-track, and then, my gosh, they came up with 16 tracks.
Oh, we thought that we'd struck oil.
Oh
right?
God, this is over the top. And then it was 32 tracks. This
Really?
is still on audio tape.
We had a 3-track at Peppertown back.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did.
Oh yeah.
So what do you miss?
Hmm?
What do you miss? What's no longer a part of the scene that you wish
I don't
was a part of the
know.
scene?
I don't know that I miss anything.
Well, in a lot of the older sessions, the instrumentation was bigger, and in some of the famous country sessions, the vocal group would be there, and there'd be 7 or 8, 10 people in a rhythm section, and the vocal group, Nita Kerr singers, and all those.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The old RCA where they were way up in the vocal ceiling up there, that had to be a great experience.
Yeah.
But it gets down these days of people coming in to overdub or sending in a part from home or something. There's so many.
Or from California.
Yeah.
Well, and in all fairness, regardless of what you think, if you want to work right now, that's the only way to work. So
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You have to adapt whether you like it or not in order to. I mean, right now, look at us. We're not in a room together, and we're doing all this. So there's something.
Oh, you gave it away.
I did. I know, shocking, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I just having maybe been here the longest other than BG, I did love it when I first came here, when everything went down at the same time, and you did 4 songs with everybody in a 3-hour session, and everybody just had to kind of be on their toes. I remember asking Bill when I first started, asking Bill Justice what advice, because he know him, know me, basically. It's the story, but asking him, if he had any tips on studio etiquette for me, and he said, "Don't talk when the light's on, and don't kick over in the ashtrays, and you'll be fine."
Bill Justice said to me one time, we were talking about young people coming in with one song from Texas or somewhere and living in their car, and then they came I was working for Capitol Records, and they would come in with all kinds of stuff that was not very good or whatever, and he was arranging a lot of stuff for people, to Capitol artists and things, and he and I also played in bands together, like Carl Garvin's band and stuff.
Right.
And one day he said, "I get so tired of teaching these kids how to play like a sequence of chords or something." He said, "If they play a major 7th, they think they've struck oil, and so they want to go out and put it on a record."
That's all they want to play.
And he always, and he would conduct and say, let's do this before the copyright runs out or something. He would do all these crazy things, but he was a brilliant musician. He really was. It's very fun.
Okay, so my next question is, the next question I am asking you from a fan. What is the most successful recording you've played on? I'm guessing by successful, they mean like sold the most or most people know about.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to brag a little bit on yourselves. What's the most successful record you're on?
I have to think about that.
Boy.
Well, if you want to go to a country format,
I don't think it.
Yeah.
I think anything.
In all the years I got to travel with Lynn Anderson, her record producer, her first husband, Glenn Sutton would always let me play on all the recording sessions, whether I was playing acoustic piano or maybe playing electric piano to one of the other players. But for me, that would be the most records that sold, the most popular artists that I played with.
That's great, Lynn Anderson.
Yeah, one time.
Jack,
what about you, Jack?
Jack's being modest.
Yeah.
I suppose Randy Travis.
Okay.
Sold the most records and was kind of the most influential singer that I've played with.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty influential, that's for sure. That's cool. That's very cool. What record was that?
All of them.
All of them.
Oh,
Well, there you go.
That's what I'm saying.
Wins.
He's being modest.
I love it.
I would guess the one I played on that sold the most might have been Johnny Cash's Sunday Morning Coming Down, because it had such a long, such a long life.
Yeah.
How about you, Denis?
I was just trying to think. I can't. Jack mentioned there were several actually Randy Travis things that I did play on.
Hello.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. And I had.
These are hard.
I don't know about the biggest selling, but it was probably, I think, like John Anderson stuff. Swinging.
Yep.
Was that him?
Yeah. Big record.
Yep.
It was a huge record.
Yes, it was.
That may be the biggest selling one that I put on.
Yeah. George, did you play on Ring of Fire?
I did not, and you know what?
No.
I would like to take this opportunity because
Wait a minute. I would like to take everyone off the screen so George can have his own screen, because I was just going to say this. Everyone, just focus in on George, because I know what he's about to say.
This is actually a setup, but y'all can.
I love it. I love it. That's so funny.
No, I did not play on the record. I played it many, many, many times with him in person and on TV. But I get credited for playing it, and I have been miscredited over the years for many times. So the people who played on it were the seminal early Nashville jazz trumpet players, Bill McElhaney and Carl Garvin. And they were in the studio at the time with Jack Clements and Cash, which they both later told me was quite an experience. But they never get credited for it. Even people much closer to Cash somehow think that I did it because I got associated with him over TV and playing on some later records. But
I always thought it was you and Don Sheffield.
That's what I
I'm
thought.
sure. Yeah, I'm sure Don.
Everybody
does the same
thinks that.
thing.
Yeah.
But no.
Well, you were the mariachi.
May have to.
You were the mariachi king. A lot of things that I heard you.
I did a lot of that, and I loved doing it too. And a lot of it was really fun. But I'm thinking my gravestone is going to have to say he was a real nice guy, but no, he didn't play on Ring of Fire. So, but I mean, mainly because Bill McElhaney and Carl Garvin were such important contributors to the music scene. You know,
You're doing the right thing there, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, I remember years ago when somebody wanted to interview BG and then asked for my help to kind of engage other people like you and Barry McDonald's wife, Charlene, or ex-wife, Charlene. And and I remember you saying to me, and you went up, I didn't know you could go any higher of a notch in my life, but you went up another notch on that day because you said, I'll do the interview, but only if I'm allowed to go on the record to say, I wasn't the one who played on Ring of Fire. And I thought, there aren't a lot of people who would do that. Most people would say, yeah, that's me. That was all me. So I'll take credit. But you went the other way. I was like, this guy, he's a stand-up guy. I think I'm going to keep him around.
He is.
As the days grow short, we're trying to, clarify things and
right. I have one.
Clear it all up. That's true. I mean, it certainly, I could have dined out on it, as Bill Walker would say.
That's right. Yeah.
Many times, but
not
doing it though.
Well,
you did the right thing there, buddy.
You didn't ask me, but I'm going to tell you.
This is for anybody. Yes, of course.
Well, I think, I'm not sure, but I think Henry Mancini came to town, and the big RCA studio, and I got to play organ. He played piano. He was always a piano player, and there was a big string section, Brady Martin was playing guitar. I remember he was very famous, and they put me on B3 on the organ, and I got to play with Henry Mancini on his Mancini Country album, and every time I go into my dentist's office or something like that, I hear a track with one of those things. But it was fun. I had a lot of solos on it. He had things written out and stuff, and he was wonderful to work for. And that led to a whole bunch of other stuff where I did some concerts with him.
Oh yeah,
and things like that. But I think that record is still, at least I hear it a lot, and somebody's getting the revenue. I don't know what it is, but it was fun. He was a terrific musician. He's very kind. He was Chet Atkins was the producer, and we all got along very, very well, and it was fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mancini Country.
Cool.
This one hopefully is a little easier. What's the funniest session you ever played on? I think most memorable, like, anyway. Buddy raised his hand. Buddy Skipper, you can
Go.
During the time that the streak became popular,
Oh.
everybody was recording a version of the streak. You know, Ray Stevens was the one who had the success, and Solee owns the records. Once again, Lynn Anderson's first husband, Glenn Sutton, he pulled us in on a midnight session to record his version of the streak. And we're recording away, and Glenn comes through the studio totally butt naked, ran all the way through the studio, all through all the musicians while we were recording that, and that just has always stuck out.
I think you've topped mine.
That does stick out.
I have a streak.
That's up there.
Story
Wow.
too.
Yeah, that was funny.
Oh, I don't even know what to say about that.
Yeah,
That's so good.
He's topped me. I thought I had a good one, but when I was on the road with Ray, but we were at Mickey Gilley's club in Texas, and I don't know if you've been to that club or not, but it's we were there twice at some point. And it's an old, well, the whole concept is round things that came out in World War II.
Quonset huts?
Quonset huts, thank you. It was huge.
Well,
and it had
stage was kind of in the middle, wasn't it?
The stage was in the middle back. And the second time we were there with somebody else, the lights over the stage caught on fire and we had to evacuate the place. Anyway, so we were starting to do our show, and the way we set up was the rhythm section was in the back, and the guitar player and the steel player and people like that. Then they had a grand piano, and my job was I had a little keyboard over to the side of the piano, and when Ray was playing, I was playing the little keyboard. He would play the big piano, which was a 7 or 8 foot. Then he wanted to get up occasionally and take the microphone and walk up and down and sing to and when he did that, I was supposed to go to the piano and keep going, and all the things were like, so we were having a good time. Everybody in the audience was drunk and yelling and carrying on. I was on the side of the thing, and all of a sudden I saw this big sombrero, and then this person came up the 2 steps onto the bandstand, and he was naked from the waist up. Nobody saw it but me, and I kept trying to get somebody said, look, and they were all facing forward, and the audience didn't see him either. And then he kept coming up more, and I kept looking for, pajamas or something. Nothing. He had on a big hat, and cowboy boots. Nothing else. And Ray was singing The Street at the time.
Oh my God.
So they planned it. There were two guys behind me that I realized later they were his helpers. And he got up, and I'm playing, and I see that he has nothing on, and I start laughing because it's so silly. And I was almost like over the keyboard, just like, this is the silliest thing I've ever seen. And then everybody, including Ray, saw him, and he ran all the way across the stage, and he said, "Hi, honey," to me. He went down the other side, and two guys had his pants ready for him to put back on. And we were, I was doubled over on this. I couldn't play. I was just laughing so hard. And the other guys had caught up with it. And Ray loved it. I mean, he was like, it was the funniest thing. And the audience then saw what he saw.
Oh, yeah.
What we saw. It was the single funny. I think I laughed so hard. I just,
Oh, that's hilarious.
It was great. And
I
Ray
love
was
that he had
always
his
great.
pants people standing
Ray
by.
could
he had pants people.
take anything.
Forgive my ignorance. I know that this will apply to George, but it perhaps applies to others. I don't know. What was it like to work with Elvis?
Oh, yeah.
Did you honestly think you were going to get off this without talking about Elvis? Seriously?
Well, I mean, I could just say,
George, why do you think you're on the show? Let's just be honest. It's all about Elvis.
I thought
it was borderline up until when he played with Elvis.
It's not the hat. It's not about the hat. I thought this was about Tommy playing on Tom T. Hall's record. I thought that's what.
No,
it was
Sorry,
it was
man.
a great experience. I played with him a few times in Memphis. Played concerts with him in Memphis in the very early '60s. And he couldn't have been cooler. He was just a very nice guy. Then I did a part of a tour in 1971 with him and a whole tour in 1972. And he was, first of all, we honestly didn't interact with him as much as you might think or wish, because he kind of came and went. He came after the show started, and the famous Elvis has left the building was a reality. But when we, he was always polite and pleasant and always said hello. And in the early days, he always sounded fantastic. I mean, I didn't have any live experience with him later in his career, but he sounded great, and it was a joy. And you got those nice little stickers too,
Yeah, the Elvis stickers. So your Vegas stint with him, there's at least one video. There may be thousands, I don't know, but I'm trying to think. Was it Bridge Over Troubled Water? That was Waters. That
yeah. Well, there's the one tour that we did with him. There was a full documentary movie of Elvis on tour, and it was just that tour. The film editor of it, it was beautifully done. It was one of the first split screen documentaries. Some guys from France were involved, and they followed us around and did a lot of B-roll and stuff. And then it was edited by a up and coming guy called Martin Scorsese, who was just getting started. He won a Golden Globe for it.
Mr. Eyebrow.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So we had it. It was nothing but fun. I'll tell you the really funniest thing, and then I will never speak of Elvis again.
Which will be very disappointing to the people who want you to talk about Elvis. But okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll tell this story because it's funny. In his road band, there was an organ player. His rhythm section included the really good piano player Glenn D. Hardin, who wrote some of the charts too. But he carried an organ player, and on this April tour that I did with him, the organ player, I can't remember his name because I'm really old, but he was a great guy, and he was also Liberace's orchestra show conductor.
Oh,
So he did the whole thing except one night. He had a Liberace date that he had been committed for, and that they had said he could be off one night for. So he went off to do that, and in his place came the somewhat wilder David Briggs, one of the most famous record producer and pianist. So, a brilliant guy. So this truly sticks in my memory. So the way it worked is that when the show was over, like we went to and from the hotel in just a bus, like a Greyhound bus. So Elvis would get out really quick and be gone, but by the time we got to the bus, we were always stuck in traffic. So we were one of the time that David Briggs played, he was on the band bus with us, and we were making our way really slowly through traffic, and a lot of people were still on foot going to their cars, and they realized somehow that the people on the bus were the people in Elvis's band. So they came up to the bus, the windows were open, I guess, and they started saying, "Hey, is Elvis on there? Is Elvis on the bus?" And of course, I mean, the one thing we would never do was say that. And David Briggs immediately went to the window and said, "Yeah, he's on on here right now. He's in the bathroom right now, but he just said he would like for you all to wait. He's going to come out and talk to you in just a minute." we're like hundreds of people. I mean, it was like we were in like a little island of people waiting for Elvis to come from the window and talk to them. And then Briggs would kind of say back, "E, almost done? Okay, he's coming, everybody."
E, are you almost done? They call it E. I love that.
The bus was shaking and rocking. I mean, it got a little scary it was enough people that they could have pushed it over. Finally, he gave up on it, and we made our way out. But I will never forget that. It was so funny.
That's funny.
Retreating one question, my funniest session that I can remember was David. David was an unbelievably great piano player, session player, but a total screw up. I mean, he just messed around all the time. And I seemed to find him funnier than anybody else. He could make me laugh all the time. So there was some session.
Oh, he's so funny, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And this was like kind of a low. There's like, he screwed around. He's screaming into the microphones during takes. There's frisbees flying around the studio. It was just like, it's just insane. And pretty much a waste of time. At the end of the session, this is a Jack Clemens studio. I remember we were all going out. There's a door at the kind of the back of the studio. We're all going out, and the producer was Buzz Case, and he walked out of at the end of each session, we had to sign a little W-9 form for tax purposes. And Buzz came out of the control room as we were leaving, and he said, "David," and he held up his W-9 and lit it with a lighter.
It was rumored that David Briggs, on one of his crazy moments, went into, you probably know, Jack, went into the RCAB studio and sprayed the whole board down with
It was Columbia, but yeah. And it cost him like tens of thousands of dollars.
That's
the
funny.
board.
Yeah. He took a fire extinguisher.
Fire extinguisher.
as on a lark.
Wow.
Why did you do that?
I don't know.
He's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy about that.
For a laugh.
Genius crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He's great. He's
Mad
great.
genius.
He's such a brilliant guy.
He
A
is.
brilliant guy.
I have a story that he told me when we always were buddies, and sometimes when like Chester Atkins would produce something, he would have a piano player and a organ player or something. And so David and I occasionally got to work together, and we became friends. I saw him not too long ago at one of our friends' birthday parties, and he's still crazy David. You know, it's funny. But we were at a Christmas party. I had done a demo session for this weird musician he was one of those people that shows up all the time to have new material done, and then nothing ever happens with it. It's one of those guys. And I had played an intro on some song that he had, and I forgot about it because it was just a 4-bar thing. I got paid and I left. Well, the studio over on 17th was having a Christmas party, and LSI Studios, and everybody that worked there came in. And so this guy that I had done that demo sessions for was there, and he'd already been into the cooking sherry, shall we say. and he was kind of like known for that. And he came up to me and he said, "Do you remember that demo that you did last, September?" I said, "Yes." Like, how could I forget it? And he said, "That intro that you played on that demo," he said, "when I recorded that for so-and-so, the piano player I got couldn't do that thing that you played in the front. And I was about to call you while we were doing it to see if you could tell him what to do." And I had a couple of drinks, and I said, "I can't believe you're asking me that. Why didn't you just call me to do the record session instead of the demo?" So I ran into David later at the same party, and I told him what happened, and he said, "I got a better one." I said, "Okay, what?" And he said, "I did a whole big thing like that on a demo at some time. 2 or 3 months later, they were getting ready to make the regular session. This producer called me at like 11:30 at night and said, 'I've got this piano player that's playing this thing that you recorded back in April or whatever. He can't play the intro and some of the other stuff. So could you just come down here and show him how to do it?'" And David said, "I'm asleep."
That's not surprising.
Hung up the phone.
That's good.
See, you can't make these things up.
That's funny. That's good. He's
Denis,
great, yeah.
I have a thought for you.
Yeah.
To go back in time, according to someone who may or may not definitely is on this call, says that you were the solo whistler for a Barry Manilow special on PBS.
No. It was Johnny Mathis.
Really? You whistled on a Johnny Mathis record?
What?
Tell us about your whistling on.
What's the tune that had it? Was it Wonderful, Wonderful?
Yeah.
Sounds right.
Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, so wonderful. Yeah.
You still got it.
Anyway,
Got it.
yeah, at the rehearsal, somehow I got drafted into being the whistler for this tune, and they wanted me to be on stage, and they were gonna shoot me with the microphone, and it was, it's an easy thing to whistle for somebody who can whistle, but what I wasn't prepared for was being up there and not having anything to drink, and my mouth is getting dry, and the lights are shining down, and I'm getting all dry. All I could do is I had to force the sound out, and I know the intonation was not good. I got the notes out, but the performance was, let's say, less than I would have liked.
Okay, so this was Johnny Mathis.
Yeah, it was a big special. It was a great show.
And when was this?
God, you would know, George. You were probably the contractor on it.
89, 90.
Yes. Yeah, probably. Yeah, somewhere in there, late 80s.
It was a 2-hour, one of those 2-hour PBS fundraisers.
Right.
Yeah.
We did like a concert, and the breaks in the concerts for them to do ask for money. So it was pretty cool. And Denis
Yeah.
looked great on the riser. He
Of
was
course he
great.
did. Dennis, which hat did you wear? I know you had a hat on.
No, I didn't.
You
I
remember?
don't think
Really?
I ever had.
Ooh.
Those my pre-hat days.
Oh, I see. Now, okay,
I still like
Johnny
that.
Plus,
Mathis, that brings up a whole other thing. I'm sorry. I have a big musical crush on Johnny Mathis.
Oh,
Oh, me too.
I
Yeah,
realize this is not feasible, but I wish that he would sing me to sleep. I know that's never going to happen for many reasons, but
yeah.
if someone were to ask me, what singer would you like, Monica? What singer would you like to sing you to sleep? I would say Johnny Mathis.
Uh-huh.
Was that
If
too
we could
personal?
arrange it for you, we
That
would.
seems like it was a little too personal. Anyway, so we'll edit that out. But anyway, so but Johnny Mathis seems like, I mean, to us, we saw him last year at the
Oh, we've
Skirmish.
seen him
And
3 years in a row.
but he seems like, to me, he is the finest singer of his generation singing
Oh,
today.
yeah.
Oh,
When
amazing.
we saw
Yeah.
him last year, he's 84.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sang for an hour and a half in front of an orchestra. He just walked around in front of the orchestra.
Mhm.
And his voice
Yeah.
went right up where it was when he was in college. I mean, I don't know how he does it. It's just
Mm.
gorgeous.
Mhm.
His muscle memory is there.
He obviously take really good
Yeah,
care of his voice.
Oh yeah, yeah, he does.
He was just a joy to work with on this particular show. I was the contractor on it, so I had a little more contact with
Uh-huh.
people backstage and a little bit with him. They just couldn't have been nicer. He was thrilled to be standing in front of it. It was a really, really good band.
Mhm.
It was a great experience.
It's so nice when the people you're working with are nice people.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You all had multiple experiences with things, and some of the people were really easy to work with, and some were over the top nice, or some were just agreeable, and some were
Less so.
not great. But yeah, isn't it nice when it's just they're
Less
just
so, yeah.
nice
Less
to
so.
work with? I mean, they're good people. Like at the heart of it, doesn't matter their talent. They're grateful.
Sure.
You know,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
it goes a long way, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, that kind of, I didn't even mean to do this, but that segues into my next question. What musician or artist have you enjoyed working with the most?
Mm.
And if you've already answered this, you don't have to answer it again, but
Like
Mm.
I have I had one gig with him. And
Do
but
tell.
it's one of those things I've always hung on to because it was such an incredible experience when we did it. And I think George was on the gig. It was when the Jazz Machine backed up Mel Torme
Oh,
at,
Oh, yeah.
at TPAC.
That was amazing.
Were you on? You were on that, right?
Yes, that was
Yeah.
that was amazing. Yes.
I missed that gig
And-
because
And we had
somebody else took
You
it.
did,
it was
and had to
just
go out of
one
town.
night,
Yeah.
one concert, one night. We had a rehearsal that afternoon, and Mel rehearsed the band. I mean, he
Oh, yeah.
didn't have a conductor. He probably wrote half the arrangements in the book.
yeah,
Yeah.
I bet.
And but the experience, I was playing lead alto on the gig, and Mel just sat on a stool just right in front of me.
Mhm.
And I was just fascinated by his musical knowledge and how he handled the rehearsal, how he handled all the musicians, how he could just get the most out of everybody there. I mean, everybody
Yeah.
just rose to the occasion, and
it was
he
a
said
joy.
he was really, really happy with the band.
I bet. You should be. That's cool.
And I thought we did a remarkable job, as a group. but it was such a thrill.
Yeah, it was
that experience, and just being that close to him and just watching him work for that 2.5 hour rehearsal.
That's great.
Was just an amazing experience.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad you had that experience with
Agreed.
Dennis. That's cool. Buddy, what about you?
Well, that just brings to mind with me other events we did with the symphony where great artists came in. I was just thinking about Maureen McGovern.
Oh, I love Maureen McGovern.
Oh, killer!
Just
amazing. And I love the arrangements. You look around the charts and you see all these famous arranger names and everything.
Yeah.
And back to Johnny Mathis and a lot of great artists with the symphony that I got to sit in with in the sax section.
That's cool.
Really, really enjoyable. Great memories.
That's cool. What about you, Jack? We're gonna go around each.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I work with a lot of really, just musician-wise, I work with a lot of really incredible musicians in recording sessions.
Sure.
But if I had to name one, I would say the aforementioned Bill Harris.
Yeah.
I met him when almost the minute I hit town in 1966, playing with the Peabody College Jazz Ensemble.
Yep.
And we played everything, just the most atrocious country club gigs and
we did
really great television shows and really great jazz things. And we played, I don't know, 1,000 times together. And he now lives in Guatemala, which turns out to have been a really smart move for him. And still a great friend, and he's a great drummer. And
he is.
It was really,
he really is.
It was really a pleasure. I'm so glad I got to work with him as much as I did.
Yeah.
I have to say, I worked with a trio that was led by Doug Kirkham in the 60s, and we played in the Silver Slipper thing. But my first actual trio of my own was you and Bill Harris.
No.
And we did little gigs, like we went to the Circle Theater and they paid us all $20, and lunch.
Yeah.
And we would do stuff like, I remember one time when what's her name in England was like a big hit, and we played a lot of just pop stuff. Your ears and Bill's ears were so good that all I had to do was say, let's play so and so, and they were rock tunes. They were not really jazz tunes.
Yeah, it was like stuff like Martha, My Dear, and Downtown, and stuff like that.
Yeah, stuff like that. And people loved it.
Yeah,
because we were just kind of mimicking the real record.
Yeah,
but those two already had it in their ears, so we didn't even have to rehearse, and we did that quite a bit.
That's cool.
Yeah, I loved Bill's playing, and I loved your playing too. Yeah.
George, what about you?
George,
well, I mean, I will third the Bill Harris, the Bill Harris appreciation. If you one of the coolest things about finally seeing the Johnny Cash TV shows released where you can actually see them is that you can hear what a powerful force keeping that whole thing going Bill Harris was as a drummer.
He could drive a band.
Because every kind of style. I mean, and the same with jazz, same with all the rhythm players. The styles couldn't have been more eclectic, but they were always great. I loved traveling with J.J. Cale. I just enjoyed that so much. That was, and Denis did some of those.
Yeah, I enjoyed those too.
They were fun.
Yeah.
And I played one, like Denis, although like Denis was saying about the Melton Moore thing, I played 2 shows with Sammy Davis Jr. Kind of near the end of his life, but there was just, I mean, mostly the thing is the aura that came in around him when he came in. He was not well, and he was tiny, just tiny. But man, he put out an aura around and in front of him.
Yeah.
And when he sang and danced, it was
Working
talk about
Yeah.
the years
Yeah.
falling away. I mean, it was
Magic.
emotional, really emotional experience.
working with one eyeball too. That can't be easy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Mm.
that's right. That's a good point.
Well-
See, he gets extra points for that. I mean,
really.
we've all been so lucky. We've been so lucky to play with great artists, and also, as Jack mentions, the great other players. I would count.
Right.
I would count the
That's
5
true.
of you I can see in this picture among the best
Right.
people I
Me
have
too.
Absolutely.
made
Me
music
too.
with.
Exactly.
I have one more question. I like this question a lot. What do you wish for young studio musicians to know today? So somebody who's just trying to get into it, or maybe they're know-it-alls. Who knows? But what do you wish for young studio musicians to know today? Buddy, what do you think?
Well, one thing that comes to mind with some of the great session players that I've been fortunate enough to work with is that less is more is always a really
Yeah.
important rule.
Right.
Some of these players like to play you every note they ever heard of as fast as they can play it. And you take somebody like Charlie McCoy, who comes in and I mean he can play a million notes. If you want him to play Foggy Mountain Breakdown, he'll blow you out the door with a million notes. But he plays just the notes that are necessary for a particular phrase behind a singer. And that's all. And if there's no room to play something, he won't play. And people are like that. Reggie Young, the great guitar player,
Oh,
he was
I
like
miss him
he
so
was
much.
like that. Yeah. That's one particular thing that jumped into my mind when you read that.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a very good point. You don't have to play everything you know in every song.
No.
Yeah.
I don't say a lot of us we're fortunate enough to have been around when the studio scene was thriving and we could make a living doing that. And I thank you, Lucky Star. You know, I was able to do it for several years and didn't have to go on the road, you know, a whole lot, you know, except for a few strange gigs with Johnny Rodriguez. And yeah, I actually played Mickey Gilly's place with Johnny.
Oh boy, yeah.
That was,
so you know what I mean.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's a different world out there. The music.
That's good.
Scene, the music world is just a whole different thing. The technology has changed so many things.
Especially with the pandemic.
I'd say get your chops together, try and play as much as you can, doing as much good music as you can, and don't limit yourself to one style or just one thing.
That's
all those symphony players that have learned to play their instrument the whole life and they're just screaming to want to perform for people when they can't get on the stage. It's just really sad experience with the pandemic that's going on.
Yeah,
it's really
terrible.
Sad.
Yeah.
Sorry, Quigley went apeshit on me.
How's Quigley doing with the Roomba? That's what I want to know.
We're still working on it. We'll let you know. We'll keep you posted on that. Now, wait a minute. George still hasn't answered this question. We're not letting George answer.
Well, first of all, ditto everything that's been said.
Of course.
I would say, I mean, based on my experience, assume that everyone you're on the session with is likely better than you and is certainly somebody you can learn something from.
Right.
Yeah.
And don't forget that it's a team sport.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah. That's, I mean, it's kind of that simple. Then whatever good happens to you, try to pass it along.
Yeah.
Which is what we all were the beneficiaries of.
Yeah.
And try to save up enough money to get one of those vacuum cleaners that runs around on the floor.
I
finally made it. I've got it.
One of the things that I love about being a jazz musician or a studio musician is that most of the people you work with are just fun to be with, and you know the people that are playing well, and they teach you things even just by listening to them and just hanging out with them. They usually are pretty straight arrow. There are very few people that are going to mess with you.
One other thing I'd add is that, except for Beegie, the words Nashville and livelihood and jazz don't really belong in the same sentence.
Dennis and George are doing. They're hanging on just fine.
It was because I could do a lot of different stuff. I grew up with country music.
Yeah.
I grew up with country music, and I knew those songs, and I didn't have to be just somebody who had a college degree. And it took me a while to prove that.
Yeah.
But by the time I got to the Johnny Cash show, I could do whatever they wanted. Being versatile is the best way to get a good job.
When I first got to town, I was cautioned. I was trying to do 3 different things.
Yeah.
Play piano, play woodwinds, and arrange. And I was cautioned to not advertise that type of thing.
Yeah.
But it worked out in the long haul. So,
yeah.
Yeah. As a, I'm not young, but I'm younger. Maybe
You're the youngest person in the room.
Well, except I like to think that I can hang with you guys. I'd rather hang with you guys than.
Yes, you can.
So but the reality of it is, I am kind of versed in what's happening now, and it's all changed so much. For younger musicians, it is really important to get out and listen. I think just to get out and listen to people who have been around longer than you. Surround yourself with people who are better than you. I pride myself in that. The reason I know all of you is because you're so much better than me, and I get to hang with you and just listen. That's how this all comes about. I have flourished as a person doing production and as a singer and all that because I get to hang out with people like you. So from my perspective, it's just be present. Listen. It's not about you all the time. Sometimes you just need to be in the room. Sometimes you just need to ask the questions. You don't need to answer them. Just be present and absorb it. You'll learn something. You'll be better. And the people around you who you're listening to may actually appreciate it and remember you as a result. So.
You're here.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So,
and that's good advice at any age.
So we're going to wrap up here. You all have been so kind to do this, and we're going on over 3 hours. Oh my God! We're gonna have 3.5. We're gonna have 4 parts to this thing.
This is the best cocktail party I've ever
you can
been
do
to.
a lot of editing.
Yes, we can do a lot of editing. But first of all, I just want to ask everyone, please share this with your friends. Whatever segment you're watching, please share it. Stay in touch with all the people on this. If they're on social media and they're accepting fan requests, we'll make sure we have that information in the description. So please definitely stay in touch with what everybody's doing. Support live venues. That's important to BGME. And actually, Jack, he has shared a cause that he is supporting. We're going to include that in the description as well. We want everyone just to support keeping things alive right now. You know, it's like right now we just need each other. We need to all do the right thing and in whatever way we can. And with that, wear a damn mask. Oh my God. For the love of God, wear a mask. I am so tired of saying it. I am here to actually, for the love of God, stop. Just wear a mask.
For the love of God.
For the love of God. God bless America. Wear a mask.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So we won't find you down on Lower Broadway tonight?
You will not find me. No. Listen, this is not political. This is truly a personal thing. Just wear a mask. Don't be a dick. Just wear a mask. It's that simple.
There you go. If I believed in tattoos, I would. That's what I would go with.
Exactly. Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
note, a sweeter note,
Not.
George, would you like to set up our final tune for this? Speaking of sweet,
What is it?
George?
Well, I just would say that I love the idea of writing a song dedicated to someone that you love and admire. And Beegie is high on that list for me.
Oh,
And so for a long time, I wanted to write a tune for her. And I couldn't decide what it would be, whether it would be peppy or jazzy or chordy or whatever. Anyway, I finally struck on a melody and some chords that felt like her. And so I wrote this song, which I think you're going to play. And if you're not talking about that, I've just wasted a lot
No,
of
that's-
everybody's
yeah.
time.
No, we are. You're good. You're good, buddy.
But-
You're good.
It's
Go
live
ahead.
at the Jazz Workshop. And by the way, it features one of the absolute best tenor solos that I ever heard my friend Denis play. So
oh,
it's live, and it's also, you can clearly hear it's the first time we ever played it because there's a lot of instructions going on while the tune is
right.
going on.
Thank you, Buddy and Jack and George, and of course
Yes.
BG and Denis and
And
this is-
Monica,
And
Wow.
Monica.
Monica.
this is
this has
this
been
is
so
fun,
great.
and we should do it again.
Let's not wait
guys-
until the next pandemic to get together again. Okay.
That sounds like a good idea.
You guys are my, I don't want to say childhood because I was grown when I met all of you,
Uh,
but you're so connected to me and the music that we have made over the years. I love you all.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love you back.
Yeah.
Love you too, Beach.
Thank you.
It's
All right, Jack, you're muted.
I am. I'm sorry.
There you go. Now
back,
speak.
you're back on.
We love BG like without reservation. But number two, I bet I'm not the only of the old timers that initially thought, "What the fuck? Who's this Monica? Has BG been like abducted and held incommunicado or something? What is going on here? What is this deal?" But pretty quickly on, I became so impressed with you as a friend of BG and
Oh,
just
thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait. Well,
Absolutely.
we've lost you again, Jack. You're muted again.
oh, I'm sorry. I
That's
clicked.
okay.
Anyway,
now it's up. Yeah.
I was in mid compliment. So after our initial shot, it became clear pretty quickly that you are just the best thing that happened to BG, and you're a great friend to her, and
Oh,
keeping her going indefinitely. And
She is.
it's great that you came onto the scene.
thank
Yeah,
you.
also,
Here.
I happen to notice that whenever I go to a concert where Monica's singing and all these recordings and videos, that she is the singer. So
Right.
it
Oh yeah,
makes me think that
Yeah.
Monica's got some awesome singing
yeah.
chops.
By the way, yeah.
She
And
does.
also, kick-ass singer.
I'm telling you.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's very nice of all of you to say. I am just happy to be a part of the group, and BG's the best teacher I've ever had. So we're a good team, and
Yeah.
So BG, you are not held
I agree with that.
incommunicado. Just could you confirm? Just
No.
blink twice or something. Okay, good. All right.
This is starting to look like Hollywood Squares here.
Oh yeah.
All right.
This
That's
is,
right.
This has
Okay,
been great,
Dennis,
Monica.
go
Thanks
to
for putting
sleep.
this together.
she is
Paul
definitely
Lee is
her
going
own
to
person.
replace
Yeah, she's definitely her own person. I can't control that. It's
Yeah.
all BG's.
yeah.
You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're good. Yeah, she's control. So
Okay.
I
Anyway.
give her a hard time.
Y'all
No.
stay on the planet.
Okay.
we will
Night,
as long as
everybody.
we can.
I
Love you
killed
all.
this whole damn bottle.
Oh, good. Yay.
It's time to
Cheers.
sign off,
Good
man.
job.
Cheers.
Yeah.
I'm signing off.
Yeah.
Good night, all. Everybody.
Okay.
Good night, all.
I hope you can get an hour out of this.
We got it. We got it.
Okay. All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.